I thought Megan was my best friend, someone who'd always have my back. But when I started dating Aaron, things changed. Megan planted doubts, hinted he wasn't loyal, and made me feel paranoid.
So, this story starts with my best friend, Megan. We'd been inseparable since high school, closer than sisters. You know how you have that one friend who just gets you? That was Megan for me, or so I thought. Anyway, things started to change after I got into a relationship with Aaron, a guy I'd met in college. Aaron was everything I'd wanted: kind, funny, ambitious. And Megan was thrilled for me. Or at least, she pretended to be. She was always supportive, or so I thought. But looking back now, there were red flags that I just didn't see. At first, it was subtle. Megan would make little comments, like, "I'd watch out for Aaron if I were you. He seems a bit too friendly with other girls." Or, "Are you sure he's loyal?" I thought she was just being protective, looking out for me like a best friend would. I ignored her warnings and brushed it off. Aaron had never given me any reason to doubt him. But then, weird things started happening. One day, I was supposed to meet Aaron for lunch. He never showed up, and when I called, he didn't answer. Later, he apologized, saying he got tied up at work. That wasn't like him, but I let it slide. A few days later, I saw him at a party with someone who looked suspiciously like Megan, though they both insisted it was just a coincidence. But when I looked at Megan, she wouldn't meet my eyes. That was the first time I felt something was off, but I still didn't want to believe it. Then, things escalated. I started noticing that Megan was spending a lot more time with Aaron, more than a best friend should with her friend's boyfriend. They claimed it was just a friendship, and Megan said I was overreacting. I wanted to trust her, but the nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. One night, I was out for dinner with my family, and when I got home, I saw Aaron's car parked outside Megan's house. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I texted him. He replied hours later, saying he was at home all evening. I felt sick. If he was lying about that, what else was he lying about? So I decided to do something I'd never done before. I followed them. It felt wrong, but I needed answers. One weekend, I saw them at a cafe, laughing and holding hands. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My best friend and my boyfriend were cheating right in front of me. But here's the part that no one saw coming: Megan started a rumor that I had cheated on Aaron. I was shocked. Suddenly, our entire friend group was turning against me. Aaron dumped me, saying he couldn't trust me anymore, and Megan comforted him like she was some kind of saint. I was left out in the cold, feeling completely alone. It was devastating, but I wasn't going down without a fight. I gathered every piece of evidence I had: texts, photos, even a few recordings. I confronted both of them in front of our friends and laid it all out. At first, they denied everything, but eventually, they had no choice but to admit the truth. People were shocked, but the damage had been done. I'd lost a lot of friends who believed Megan's lies, and things with Aaron were over for good. But you know what? I don't regret it. I'm stronger now, and I know to trust my gut, and never let anyone get that close again without earning it. Trust can be shattered in an instant, and sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who can hurt you the worst. Update 1. After the confrontation, I thought I could finally put everything behind me and move on. But the drama wasn't over. A few weeks later, I started receiving anonymous messages on social media. They were harsh, accusing me of lying and spreading rumors about Megan and Aaron. The messages got darker, calling me names and even threatening me if I didn't back off and leave Megan alone. I had a strong suspicion that Megan was behind the messages, but she was smart. She never left a trace. I felt cornered, like she was trying to punish me for exposing the truth. That's when I realized that, for her, this wasn't just about Aaron. It was about winning, about making sure everyone saw her as the victim and me as the villain. I knew I had to be careful, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was still watching, waiting for me to slip up. Update 2. One night, out of nowhere, Aaron reached out to me. He asked to meet in person, and against my better judgment, I agreed. I needed closure, and maybe I was secretly hoping he'd apologize. When we met, he admitted that he'd made a mistake but also confessed something that took me by surprise. He told me that Megan had been the one pursuing him from the start. He showed me messages from Megan, stretching back to before he and I had even started dating. In them, she subtly planted seeds of doubt about my loyalty and trustworthiness. She manipulated him, turning him against me one small lie at a time. Aaron apologized, saying he'd been blinded by Megan's charm, but that didn't erase the hurt he caused. I realized how deep Megan's deceit went, and suddenly, I didn't feel so guilty about exposing them both. Update 3. Just when I thought I knew everything, I got a call from an old friend, Lily, who I hadn't spoken to since high school. She'd heard about the fallout with Megan and felt guilty for keeping quiet for so long. She confessed that back in high school, Megan had also tried to sabotage her relationships, isolating Lily from friends and spreading rumors behind her back. Megan had a pattern of tearing people down to make herself look better. Lily told me that Megan used to say things like, "People always trust me more. I'm just better at playing the game." I realized this wasn't just a one-time betrayal. Megan had been manipulating people for years, thriving on the chaos she created. Hearing Lily's story made me feel validated but also sad, knowing that Megan's betrayal had been more calculated and long-standing than I'd ever imagined. Final update. After Lily shared her story, I knew I had to do something to stop Megan from hurting anyone else. I still had all the evidence I'd gathered: messages from Aaron, recordings of conversations, screenshots of the anonymous threats I suspected came from Megan. But I needed more if I wanted people to finally see her for who she was. Then, an opportunity came. One of our mutual friends, Hannah, reached out to me, saying she was starting to have doubts about Megan. She'd noticed little things, like how Megan always seemed to know everyone's secrets, and how she'd hint that people shouldn't trust each other. I convinced Hannah to have a heart-to-heart with Megan and ask her about her side of the story. Hannah agreed to record the conversation. When the day finally came, I waited nervously, hoping this wouldn't backfire. Hannah called Megan and pretended to be on her side, asking her how she dealt with my lies and what she'd do if I ever tried to come back into our friend group. That's when Megan started talking. She bragged about how easy it was to get Aaron on her side, how she'd manipulated everyone to believe I was the problem, and even how she'd sent those anonymous messages to make me feel crazy. She laughed, calling it damage control. Hearing her admit everything felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders, but it was also chilling. When Hannah shared the recording, it was exactly what I needed to finally expose Megan to everyone.
The fallout was brutal. People confronted her, and no amount of fake tears or apologies could undo what she'd done. She tried to deny it, but with the recording, her web of lies unraveled. In the end, Megan was left with no one to manipulate, no more friends to support her. Her reputation was shattered, and she was finally held accountable for everything. As for me, I lost a lot, but I gained something far more valuable: freedom from someone who'd only ever pretended to be my friend. And this time, I knew I'd come out stronger, with true friends by my side.